Hey everybody, there's I want to say it's a Latin proverb that says, uh, luck favors the bold. And I think that it's an interesting concept because it's also said that if you don't risk much, you don't gain much. And I've also heard people say that if your dreams don't scare you, then your dreams aren't big enough. And I thought, just thinking more about that, and I don't think, for me, the size of my dream isn't the part that scares me. I've had, for me, dreams that I think are insanely big, and that never scared me. The part that scared me was what happens, and not even failing so much. Sometimes even the success or the thought of, if this works out, then what? That kind of scares me. I have tons of big dreams about mostly my family, my immediate family, and my extended family, and I wonder what what that would look like if I were to succeed, and different things. It's a number of things I want to do for my family, but specifically what I think about most often is for my kids, because I know that in America there is a great economic disparity between uh, people of color and people who are not of color, for a ton of reasons that you probably already know or that you can research and look up. And I think that in America, the great majority of people will not be able to succeed in society as we know it without some type of help, without some type of loan from family, or some type of grant, or something that assists you in navigating financially, especially financially, this world. If I remember talking to a friend of mine, and for whatever reason, we were talking to we are talking about, rather, um, welfare, just welfare in general. And she stated, "Oh, I've never been on welfare. I never had." She was an older person. My kids have never been on welfare, and she talked about it like it was such a terrible thing. And my opinion has always been, it's there for people who need it. If you don't need it, that's just what it is. And when she talked about it, she said, "Yeah, I lived in poor housing and all this and all that." And I'm like, "Okay, well, hey, whatever, it happens." And then she said, I never took welfare. I never went down there. I would never do that." And then she said, "But then I bought my first house. Got a loan from my grandmother, and I bought my first house." And right there, I kind of, as if what she was saying wasn't kind of rubbing me the wrong way already. When she made that statement, it kind of tanked the whole conversation, because I'm like, and if a person doesn't have a grandmother, or a wealthy relative, or generational wealth to support them, if not bail them out, then what are we to think about them? Is it their fault? And it kind of felt as if she was kind of putting it along those lines, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I won't even say kind of. It rubbed me the wrong way, because I know that without opportunities, people don't get ahead most often. If it wasn't for key opportunities in my life, I wouldn't be at the position that I'm at. The position that I'm at is nowhere near what I want to be. But without some of the opportunities, and without some of the chances that were afforded to me through no merit of my own, through no great, you know, achievement that I've done, simply by being at the right place at the right time, or simply by having the right conversation with the right people, or simply finding favor with the right people. Nothing that anybody else couldn't have done, but it just worked out for me for specific situations. And I imagine that everyone has those stories, because it's always interesting when you watch movies about, great artists, or, business people, and they talk about, oftentimes a lot of them will talk about, their humble beginnings, and how they got to the point where they are. And some, the really good ones, will tell you about instances where they came across a person or a group of people who made a monumental change in their life that kind of springboarded them toward their future. I'm reminded of a conversation I had with a friend of mine and his uncle. We were all talking together one time, and he was talking about that after high school, he and his brothers were just working jobs, working odd jobs, no real plans for school because he really didn't have the money, no real plans for anything. And he said that he had gotten a job as a mover, and he was setting up a bed and stuff and bed frames, and it was a really hot day. And he said that they just kept working, and it wasn't a great environment. He just kept working and kept working, and he thought to himself, what am I doing? Life has to be more than this. Life has to be better than this. And he said he enrolled himself in school. And from that point, he got his bachelor's degree, and he then went on to study theology at Harvard. And he said that was it not for that day and being frustrated and being upset and reaching out. I wish I would have had more information on, the context that he had regarding Harvard, but he said it was that frustration that kind of made him get fired up. But if you're in a position where it's not that bad, what if you're working a decent job and it ain't that bad, and you don't get those opportunities? Now, you still want to be in a better place in life, but you don't get the opportunities even for clarity. And I think it was Chris Rock who said one time that I correct myself. It was Dave Chappelle who was talking about he had what many black men his age or older don't have the luxury of having, and that's a moment of clarity. You don't have the opportunity to take time to be reflective on your life and be reflective on the things that matter to you. So you don't get to see, is this really fulfilling me? And in what way? And also to ask the question, well, what then will fulfill me financially and, spiritually, mentally, whole body wellness wise? And I think that that's important to ponder or consider in regard to taking risks, because to even sit down and to ponder things is a risk, because that's time that you could be spending doing something else. One of the things that I struggle the most with is, personally, I worry that if I reach for, and I think I've talked about it before, if I reach for a dream and I don't make that dream, then it feels like that time that I spent trying, to me, will register as, a wasted time if that thing doesn't work out. Because I'm taking that time away from the job I could be working. I'm taking that time away from, time I could have spent with my family, time I could have been building something else that I'm pretty sure would have worked. And I know it's a faulty way of thinking, but it is the way that I think sometimes. So, that is to say what? I think that luck does still favor the bold, and I think that it's important to still take risks, to still take chances, and to see what could be from what you want. What could be what could really happen? What's the worst that could happen if you step out on this thing or that thing? And I think that, and my father says this all the time in regards to jobs, which is kind of what made me adopt the motto I have in terms of jobs. He said that he would always go to jobs and he would never tell them no. Like if they said, can you do this? He would always say yes, always yes, 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 yes. He said, I would give it a shot. He said, I would let them tell me no. He said, if I even went to, down to NASA, if I got an interview at NASA, I can fly space shuttles. I can do whatever. Let them tell you no, because he's willing to try for what he wanted. And I thought that was a very profound thing, because a lot of times you're told that, I don't have the credentials, or I don't have the skills, or I don't have the experience that someone else might have, so I'm not even going to try, versus saying that I'll get in there and I'll work hard to get to where I need to be be proficient at this task or at this job. And I liked it, and I got inspiration from it, so I kind of adapted that to whatever job I wanted to do. Lots of jobs I've taken that I had no experience in, but I was willing to learn, and I was going to be teachable, and I was going to be a good student until I got to the point where I could have some sort of mastery of the task at hand. So I think it's cool to take risks, and I think for myself, to talk to myself listening to this later, that if you're taking a risk and let's say that it didn't work out so well, keep going, keep trying, because it's well worth it in the end. Because as I said on another post, you never know what you learn, and it'll possibly, or more than likely, help you toward what you should be. So, what you should be doing, or what you should be pursuing. So, those are my thoughts on risk, I guess, for today. Taking risks again and striving forward, because there's always something good when you reach out. And if you never reach out, you never know. Because one of the things that I noticed about myself very early on is I've never made more money staying in the same position that I've been at. You always have to branch out, specifically with jobs. To make more money, I have to leave the job where I'm at. And sometimes that's the job where I'm making the most money I've ever made, to get to another job where you end up making more money. So take a risk, and you can do it afraid, but don't be afraid to do it, I guess. So you can be afraid, but still step forward. Don't stand still. Keep moving. All right.